welcome to another episode of the Chaos Chronicles.
Navigating the randomness.
I'm Jess.
I'm Connie.
And today Connie is surprising me with some sort of true crime story.
Yes, we have got true crime going. Before we get into anything, I do want to do both a trigger warning and talk about our social medias. So social media first, you can find us on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. The handle for all four is at Chaos Chronicles Podcast. That's Chronicles with an S. We would very much appreciate a like, follow, and subscribe. Now for the not fun part, trigger warning, we are going to be talking about violence, sexual assault, and potential death. So just be aware.
Potential death.
I don't want to spoil anything.
All right.
All right. So.
Well, you just piqued my interest.
Oh, yeah. True crime. It's exciting and depressing. Mainly depressing. But the part that I do enjoy is setting the scene, which is what we're going to do here. So we're going to set the scene. It's 1993.
Okay.
We did not exist yet.
We did not.
We did not. Some of you guys did. Very different world. Some highlights in America. The very famous Waco siege happens in Texas. The clash between the religious group, the Branch Davidians, and the U.S. state of Texas and U.S. military forces. Not good. That could be its own episode. That should be its own episode. So
we'll throw it on the list.
Oh, yeah. So we got Waco. Canada has their first female prime minister, Kim Campbell. Nelson Mandela and F.W. de Klerk are awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for their efforts to end apartheid in South Africa. Buckingham Palace opens its doors to the public, which I thought it was earlier than that.
I did too.
I don't know. Now
interesting.
Right? It's just always been open.
Well, that brings it back to the fingerprint evidence.
And from 1992 is when that first DNA sequencing.
And both of us were like, no way, that had to have been earlier.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope. 90s were a big boom of stuff going on, which actually in the scientific world, the first cloning of a human embryo by American scientists takes place.
Oh, very cool.
Very cool. Just a couple other little things. The first Beanie Babies were launched. If y'all don't know what Beanie Babies are, they had a cult following.
They did.
They're just little stuffed animals, and still some of them are so rare that like people pay thousands of dollars for one.
Multiple thousands,
yes, which is crazy, but it started in 93. Police begin investigations of child abuse by Michael Jackson. The World Wide Web was born. And then some of the most popular movies of that year were Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Mrs. Doubtfire, Robin Hood Men in Tights. That was just a couple of them.
I've only seen two of them, but...
Which two? Well, Jurassic Park.
Love Jurassic Park. Absolutely love Jurassic Park.
Great music.
And then Mrs. Doubtfire.
I've only seen clips of that, but whenever I see that, I always think, help is on the way, dear.
I love a good Robin Williams movie.
Robin Williams, he has a place in my heart. I love him so much.
Yes. Same.
Oh, well, let's enjoy the happy, because now we get out of the happy.
Yeah.
Now, right? Oh. So we're going to start in the beginning of 1993, specifically January 12th. It's a snowy night in Minnesota. Our story takes place in St. Paul.
Great.
Yep.
Love that.
Yes. Okay. So 17-year-old, and I believe it's pronounced Hang Lee. Okay. Hang. She is Laos or Hmong, so it might be Hong. I'm going to refer to her as Lee for most of this case.
Okay.
So she's, like I said, 17 years old. She was seen leaving her St. Paul home off of Bigelow Lane on January 12th between about 6 and 7 p.m. She left with her friend, 18-year-old Nikki Lee. No relation. Nikki was supposed to be introducing Lee to her boss, Mark Stephen Wallace, a 30-year-old man and owner of a small painting business in St. Paul. Nikki returned home alone not too long after. She was dropped off by Wallace. he told Nikki he would drop off Lee at her home. Hang Lee didn't come home that night. Yeah, this is where we're going to start getting to the bad.
Well, this is going to be a not great one just because of the location. This is too close to home.
I know. This is why I was up late last night, because it freaked me out.
Lovely.
So Lee was a senior at Highland Park Senior High School. She was described as a sweet, naive teenager. She wanted to become a writer and enjoyed reading. She planned to attend the University of Minnesota after graduating.
This is strange. This is so bizarre because, like, I know where every place is that you've been talking about. This,
Yep.
no.
I know.
No.
I know. And I didn't say it yet, but my sources for this one are the Charlie Project, as well as Care 11, Pioneer Press, and Missing Person Reports. Lee loved heavy metal and 80s music. She was a big fan of the group Skid Row. And actually, when she went missing, she was wearing a Skid Row t-shirt.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So she was just a character. At the time she went missing, she had dyed her bangs red. She just was punk and full of life. Her parents, they were refugees from Laos and did not speak English at the time, reported Lee missing a few days after she didn't come home. Lee had left all of her belongings, clothes, college savings, a $100 paycheck, and her purse, which contained a knife and a lead ball for personal protection. Everything she had was left at home.
Okay.
When Lee was leaving her home on the night of January 12th, she told her younger brother, "If I don't come back, come and look for me because I don't trust Nikki."
So she had a feeling something was going to happen, but yet she still went.
Yeah.
Wow.
Lee's younger brother, Kua, remember him. We're going to talk about him later.
Okay.
When Lee didn't come home, he went to Nikki's school because she went to a nearby high school the next day and went up to her while she was eating breakfast in the school cafeteria. And he supposedly very nonchalantly asked Nikki where his sister was in a, and I quote, calm, nice way. But Nikki got, and I quote, all mean about it. "I don't know where your sister is. I don't know what you're talking about." End quote. Lee's friend Nikki originally told the police that Lee had left with some unidentified young men. In one source, she calls the men some of her, being Nikki's, white friends, and in others, she says men she didn't know. So we've got conflicting things.
Yep.
And then later, Nikki changed her story even more, stating that Lee had gone to a job interview with Nikki's own employer, Mark Stephen Wallace, at Wallace's small painting and carpentry business on, you're going to have to help me pronounce this, is it Iroquois Avenue? Iroquois.
I actually don't know that one.
Good. That's
good.
a
good thing.
That's a good thing in this regard. So Wallace had reached out to Nikki to see if she had any friends that would want to work for him. Nikki referred Lee because Lee had been looking for a new job. Nikki did think that Wallace's request was a bit odd because he didn't have enough work to take on another employee. Red flag. Oh, guys, we have props now. We have red flag props. Well, we were going to save it for the Twilight episode, but it came in handy early.
Yeah, you never know. That's why I brought him out for this one.
Yeah, no, believe me, there's going to be a few more.
Okay, well, get used to seeing red flags from here on out.
Yep. So, if we recall now, Nikki has said originally to police, she starts talking to Lee's brother, Kua, and says, "I don't know anything about your sister." Then she talks to the police. "Oh, she just went with some strangers." "Oh, actually, she went with some of my white friends." "Oh, actually, she went to a job interview with my boss, Mark Stephen Wallace." So Nikki claims that she lied in the initial conversation with police because, and I quote, She believed Lee had run away and wanted to protect her, and also because her boss had told her not to tell anyone what really happened. Yeah, flag.
No.
Yup.
No. Also, if she was running away, she would have grabbed her knife and everything else to use to protect herself. And I'm just going to be holding this, I guess,
Yes,
from
you
now on.
will.
Wow.
That's why I highlighted that she left everything behind.
Yeah. If everything...
Clothes. Everything she had.
Yeah. That clear indication that she did not run away.
No, she did not. So, Nikki had said that she and Lee had met Wallace together, which does track with what we know so far.
Okay.
Wallace was initially driving a white pickup truck, but later, for an unknown reason, switched to a tan or silver 1988 Chevrolet Cavalier.
Have to get rid of evidence and swap vehicles.
Who knows? It sounds like he changed vehicles when he was still with Nikki and Lee. Because Nikki is the one who shared that the vehicle was changed. But we don't know.
She could be a part of it.
Just wait.
Sorry, my brain's just going a mile a minute right now.
No, you're good. I'm saying just wait mainly to myself because I want to be like, yee. And I'm like, nope. We're getting there.
We're going in row.
We're going in row. Case file. Okay.
I know it's hard to not jump to the exciting stuff.
It's so hard. So Wallace dropped Nikki off, and according to Nikki, he drove away with Lee in the front seat of the Chevy Cavalier. Nikki told police that when she talked to Wallace the next day, he insisted he dropped Lee off at Wong Cafe, which is where Lee was currently working.
Okay.
So police looked into Wallace, but ultimately, and I quote, found him uncooperative.
Are we shocked?
Yep. Wallace.
No, that was a no.
Sorry. It was yup as an agreement, but no, we're not shocked that he was uncooperative. No. And Wallace actually got a lawyer who advised him to exercise his right to remain silent.
Shocking.
Here's the interesting part. Nikki also got a lawyer and stopped cooperating with the investigation. If we were in a situation where you are unaccounted for more than even 3 hours, I am sending out alarms to everybody.
Yep.
Like, that's
same.
I don't.
So yeah, not friends at all.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but the big flag.
And if your friends don't care about you, bye-bye.
Those are not friends.
They're not your friends.
No. So I know that I was jumping a little bit there, but I'm just giving you an overview of what the case was sitting as. And there was actually a 6-month delay between Lee going missing and Nikki informing the police about Wallace. 6 months.
Wow.
Police did not start looking into Wallace until June of 93.
That's crazy.
So that is 6 months for Wallace to do whatever. And of course, the police got search warrants to go check on Wallace's property.
By 6 months, though,
they didn't find anything.
Shocking. He can get rid of so much evidence, even if, I'm going to jump ahead here. I don't know what's going on, but like, if he did end up killing her, like, you can get rid of a body. There's ways to, use different types of acid to dissolve bodies and blah, blah, blah. Or, I don't know, trip over state lines, dump it in the river.
6 months is a lot of time to cover up a crime.
Yeah, that so much time.
All because Nikki did not come forward.
Not a friend.
Nope, not a friend. I'm comfortable saying that.
Yeah.
And also a side note for those who don't know as much about criminal investigations, the first 48 hours are crucial when it comes to a missing person.
There's literally a TV show.
The first 48.
Yep. Which was the only thing that was on at 3 a.m.
You know.
Yep.
It's a great show, but it'll freak you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so 48 hours have long since passed. So even trying to get evidence out of the car, nothing.
No, I mean, he could get it detailed. No one's looking for him, so he can do whatever he wants.
Exactly. And they didn't find anything. Lee's family had started posting flyers and, they're actively searching for her, but the search isn't really starting until 6 months. And part of why there was this delay is that Lee had run away and talked about running away once before.
Okay, but she left all of her stuff.
Mm-hmm. Which is why Lee's family were the ones really pushing this.
Yeah.
They're like, nope, this is different. She did not run away. And so they're pushing it. And then Nikki comes forward with this, well, actually, the last person who saw her alive was my boss.
Yeah.
And now the police are like, that is an actionable course that we can take now to get a search warrant to investigate this person. But again, she waited 6 months. I can't get over that. Okay.
No, never. Nope. If Connie went missing and I don't know, random Joe down the street, I don't know, if he was the last person to see you, I'd be pounding down on his door and calling the cops.
Same. Like
at the same time.
Oh, same time. Probably we'd both end up with restraining orders against the person because we're going to find out what happened to each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is what friends do.
Yeah. And if your friend wouldn't do that for you, they're not your friend.
No. I'd do that for a random person. I think that you know something about this person that disappeared. I'm coming after you. Like,
yeah.
That's a
normal human reaction.
You would think. But, based on the amount of true crime that we've been getting into, apparently it's not a common reaction.
No.
I don't. Oh, that's a lot to unpack.
Yes.
Back to the case file. So, something notable. At the time of Lee's disappearance, it had been about 18 months since Wallace had been released from prison after being convicted in 2 criminal sexual conduct cases.
Cool.
Yep. One of the cases involved Wallace raping a 16-year-old girl from nearby Cottage Grove. Oh, gosh. The 16-year-old had gone with him under the premise of a job interview. Just like Lee. Yep.
Just got chills. I'm not saying anything. Yep. I just got chills.
Yep. Same as, I read that last night and I just was like, oh no. It's, oh no.
Nope.
Mm-hmm. So now we're going to fast forward 16 years to 2009. Yeah.
Nothing happened for 16 years.
2009 rolls around. Investigators were able to get permission to conduct a cadaver dog search on the property that used to belong to Wallace back in 1993.
Yeah.
He had inherited that property from his mother when she died. He'd lived there on and off, and he had lost the home to foreclosure a few years prior. Something to note is in 2004, he quickly put up a garage on the property. A neighbor that saw it told police that he had never seen a structure go up that fast in his life.
I'm going to just chime in here. Pretty Little Liars. And even if you haven't seen the show, essentially someone buried a body and then the next day they built a gazebo.
Yep. Oh, yeah. That's a plot in Criminal Minds.
It's a very common plot because they think that, hey, you can't go under concrete. Oh, they can.
They can.
They can. And they will if the cadaver dogs say
and that's will. What they did.
Good.
Well, you'll see.
Sorry.
So
that was a knee-jerk reaction there.
No. Well, it should be good. But the cadaver dogs were brought out and they showed interest in an area on the back wall of the garage, which had been completed in 2004.
Yep.
So a search warrant was issued that allowed investigators to drill holes in the garage's concrete floor to probe the soil underneath for the cadaver dogs to pinpoint the exact location of the evidence. But when the dogs came back for a second search, most did not indicate an alert for human remains.
Great.
Yep. So everything just kind of dies. Nothing more happens until 2017. Yeah. So 8 years later, Yeah, a grand total of 24 years after?
Yeah.
Yep. So 2017, Wallace pleaded guilty to kidnapping a 20-year-old woman, and he was charged for stalking and possession of meth, which, if you look up his picture online, he looks exactly what you think this guy would look like. Meth and just,
Mm-hmm.
So the woman, I don't have her name, the 20-year-old woman, she had told police that she was staying with Wallace as he was the father of one of her high school friends. In exchange for staying with him, he asked that she do housework. When the woman was found with Wallace at a hotel in Woodbury, Minnesota, she was, and I quote, malnourished and bruised. She had said that Wallace held her against her will, verbally and physically abused her, and had threatened her life, end quote.
So this guy is just lovely.
Oh, we get to the kicker. When the woman was talking to police, the woman told them that she, quote, became aware of a murder in St. Paul and asked Wallace about it. Wallace responded, "She entered my business and never came out." Wallace also told the woman that he would do to her what he had done to the girl in St. Paul. Yep. Damn near a confession in my book.
Yeah.
But it's not a it's not a corroborated, I think that's the word I want. Corroborated? There we go. Confession. It was just said to this 20-year-old woman. So now we fast forward to 2020. Yeah. Wallace was civilly committed to the Minnesota Sex Offender Program, and they've got secure facilities in Moose Lake and St. Peter, Minnesota. The Minnesota Department of Corrections referred Wallace for possible commitment as a sexually dangerous person when he was serving his prison term for the 2017 kidnapping conviction. Before the conviction, Wallace had been living in Anoka County, and Anoka County Social Services brought forth the court case to have him committed. They cited his 2 convictions for sexual conduct and the recent kidnapping conviction. And those were quotes directly from Pioneer Press. In cases that were listed as not charged, the court file referenced Lee's disappearance. Mm-hmm.
I know they don't have any concrete evidence.
Mm-hmm. In the commitment hearing, the judge thankfully agreed with the Minnesota Department of Corrections assessment that Wallace is a sexually dangerous person and a sexually psychopathic personality.
Good.
Quote. Wallace, and I quote, won't get out of the Moose Lake facility unless he's rehabilitated, potentially, in essence, a life sentence, end quote.
Good.
Now, here's another kicker. In response to Wallace's commitment, Cara Levin reached out to Nikki, the friend. Nikki stated, and I quote, "Great, he belongs there," but refused to provide any additional answers to questions asked. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. This is where I was getting worked up. Yeah. Oh, girl, we got so much to say on this. We're almost at the end of the case file, and then we'll be in discussion. So now we fast forward to 2021.
Okay.
And direct quote here, investigators received a tip that Lee had been buried in an old fire pit at Wallace's former home, the one that they had done the search of the garage back in 2009. So the police department contacted a company to survey the backyard using 3D ground penetrating radar. They had some areas that were, quote, of interest, and this meant that there were areas where the ground was disturbed, which could have been a tree being removed, but we didn't know, end quote. The police got a warrant to dig in the backyard, and the current homeowners consented to the dig. So there's a new person living in this home.
How freaked out would you be if police came knocking on your door and they're like, "Hey, we have interest in your backyard. Someone might be buried back there. Can we search?"
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, that's going to lead to another question here in a second. Hold on that.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. So let's see, where did I say? So police got a warrant to dig in the backyard. Homeowners consented. The police stated, unfortunately, we didn't find anything that led us to Lee. But not all areas of the yard were dug up, as the warrant was only for a certain area. So that's the whole homeowner thing. Yeah. That's why I'm like, oh my God, if I was in that position, I'd be like, I would hate to see my yard torn up because we've worked on it, but
tear up the whole yard.
Tear it up. Do whatever. Find this girl.
Yeah.
Like, my cosmetic interest is so nominal compared to finding out what happened to this woman.
No. Rip up my yard.
I know. I couldn't find anything else, but it looks like they didn't dig anywhere else. They didn't get warrants for additional areas. I couldn't find anything about it.
What the heck?
I know. So, now, fast forward to today. Lee is still a missing person. Her family held a spirit release in 2017 after Wallace was arrested on his most recent kidnapping charge. Lee's father died in 2012, but her mother and 13 siblings are all still alive and hope she will come home. Kua Lee, the brother I mentioned, he can still remember what his older sister's face looked like as she left on January 12, 1993. He said it pains him to think that I could have spoke up and told her to stay. Kua said he hopes the person responsible for Hang's disappearance can find it in their heart to tell the truth in order to find closure within himself and redemption. Anyone with tips on her case can contact St. Paul Police at 651-266-5612 or Crime Stoppers at 800-222-8477. I have to add that in there because she's still missing.
Wow. That, oh my gosh.
Yep. A little emotional on it because I'm just so frustrated.
Yeah, my eyes are watering right now.
Same. That's why I'm not looking at you.
Oh gosh.
Mm-hmm. I know, and it's 6 months. 6 months.
Wow. That is awful. I mean, at this point, the odds of her being alive are like 0.0001, unfortunately.
Yeah,
there is a sliver because there's no body, but also,
and that's part of the. I didn't add all the quotes from Kua, her brother, but he did say a couple of things, and in his quotes, he doesn't talk about his sister in the past tense. And like Care 11 in their story, it's a news station here, they noted that. They're like, when talking to Kua, he never refers to his sister in past tense. He refers to it like she's still here.
How could you? If your sibling went missing and there's no body or nothing, I'm going to believe that they're alive until I have reason to believe that they're not.
Yep. Definitive
reason to know that they're not.
Exactly. And I think, you know, with the whole spirit release they did for her, part of a cultural thing in 2017 after the not confession from Wallace when he was, you know, convicted of the kidnapping and torture of the 20-year-old woman. Not even a woman, she's a girl.
Yeah.
Like, I think they kind of recognize it, but Kua made a really good point where he said, now that Wallace is behind bars, and I'm paraphrasing, Kua hopes that whoever was afraid to come forward with information finds the strength to do it now.
Yeah.
And that's why I put the phone number. And I know not a lot of our listeners are here in Minnesota, and it's such a freaking long shot, but
you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. Might as well throw it out there. And
yeah,
if you're listening and you know something, give them a call.
Or even if you saw something suspicious back in the day and it's always kind of weighed on you, maybe look into it.
Yeah.
You know, we see a lot more than what we realize.
Absolutely.
And you don't just assume that someone else is going to say something. That's actually a really dangerous phenomenon, which you know as a paramedic, and you can probably explain this better, but there has been so many noted cases of when someone has a medical episode in the midst of a lot of people, no one calls 911 because they all think someone else is going to do it. So as the person responding to the person needing help, you, if you are not a medical professional, or even if you are and you're off duty, you're supposed to delegate someone specifically in the crowd, point at them and say, you call 911.
Yep. Because otherwise no one will.
No one will.
Nope.
So this is why I was up late, because I got really, really riled up and freaked myself out over this story and then got mad.
And that's just too close to home. I mean, every single place that Connie mentioned, other than the street where his business was, located, other than that, I know every single place.
Yeah.
It's just, wow.
Oh, I know. I purposely did not look up the address of Wallace's home because I didn't want to know.
I know a part of me was going to ask you if you knew what city or whatever it was in. And I'm like,
St. Paul.
Oh, it's in St. Paul?
It's in St. Paul.
That's
why I didn't look up the address.
Let's not look it up.
Yeah. Yep. See?
No.
That's where I started getting myself freaked out. And what freaked me out is, as I'm doing this case file, I didn't know what happened to Wallace until like the very end of my research. So I was even debating if we have this episode, because I'm like, if he is still out, I don't know if we want to do this episode. I mean, odds are so freaking slim, infinitesimally slim, that you would ever see it. But
very slim, and also
not risking that.
Yeah, but also we don't know what happened. We're just quoting news stories.
Okay, let's explain that to the guy who has raped and tortured several young girls and then also likes meth. Logic works really well for those people.
Here's the thing. I don't really go places without a dog or some other form of protection, so
same. I add that plus rage. I have a lot of rage from working with the general public for many years.
Yeah, that was not an invitation. That was not. Nope. Just letting you know that we are not easy targets.
No. I don't. Yeah, everything about this was just freaking me out. And then as I'm researching this, I came across so many similar stories to Lee's, all here in Minnesota.
Not surprised. There are a lot out there, and it's harder to find the smaller stories. So this is probably one of the smaller stories. They're important, and they're important to tell, but they just take a lot more time to research because they are, you're piecing together news articles, and, it's harder, but they are important, just as important as the big ones, and big, small, whatever. It's whoever can get the most publicity, pretty much.
I know. And that's why I think we will end up doing more of these smaller local stories. And if you have any small local stories from your area, or even just stories that you know that are smaller, leave them in the comments.
Yeah.
We'd love to talk about them. And you never know what's going to blow up. Like our Cara Robinson episode, which if you haven't seen that, I suggest you check it out. That one, last time we checked, was getting close to 500 views.
Yeah.
So like stuff will randomly blow up on the internet. And if that means more people have knowledge and could potentially help, or even if they hear the story and they end up in a situation where, oh my God, I have been in a version of Lee's situation. Oh my God, I'm fine, obviously.
Yep, she's here and alive. What?
Okay. Years back, when I was working, this gave me chills. When I was working a bunch of the county fairs for my parents for different things, I was working one of my mom's booths by myself, and I was 16 because I had just gotten my driver's license. I was 16 working it by myself, and I ended up connecting with at the time, 35 or 37-year-old guy. He was running the, I'm not going to say the brand, but a very specific brand of home vacuums that they go door to door and they sell stuff for you. So he was working that, and it was just a slow day, and we ended up connecting quite a bit. And I was just friendly, and I was a naive kid, and I was like, oh, someone's talking to me, and I'm so freaking bored here.
Yep.
He offered me a job. He told me to meet him. God, I'm an idiot. Meet him at this house in Blaine, and we would go into the house and give a presentation, and he would show me how it works, And then I could meet him at the store. And I remember telling my mom, yeah, I'm just going to go. I got offered a job interview. So I'm leaving. I'm going to go to this random house.
You almost got snatched, Connie.
I know. I know.
Especially the first red flag of that story is
I was 16 and he's 35 or 37.
Yes. The second red flag of that story is the job interview presentation at his house.
Someone else's house.
I don't care. A house. Not the store.
A house.
A house.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, gosh. You buried that one deep, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
He actually reached out to me on Facebook last summer.
Block? Instant block?
He never did anything like crazy creepy. So like, oh God. Oh my God. I was such a dumb teenager who got hit on a lot more by older men when I was under 18 than over.
Yep.
That's a lot to unpack. But I just thought he was being nice. And now I'm looking back, I'm like, holy shit, he was flirty as hell, knowing that I was under 18. And then I remember I got mad because my mom, thank you, Mom. I know you watch this stuff. Thank you. She said, absolutely, the ever living hell not. You're not doing this.
Thank you.
I didn't listen. I didn't listen. I still went to the house. I was fine. It was a couple and like it was really nice and like everything was fine. But then I told my mom the address of the place I was going. Thankfully, I wasn't that stupid, but I think I didn't want to give it to her. My mom made me give it to her. But then when she learned the company that I would be working for, because we actually had the vacuum at our house.
Yeah.
And so she knew a salesperson from that company. My mom went behind my back, went to the place and was like, who are you? Why are you talking to my daughter? What would she be doing? Tell me everything. She didn't tell me she was doing that. And so I found out when I went to go in for an orientation and they're like, yeah, your mom came in, and they're giving me shit about it. And now I'm like, thank you, Mom.
Good job.
Good job, Mom.
Good job.
Jess, I should have died several times.
There have been several instances, but when you're a teenager, you're ignorant. And I'm not just phrasing that as you. I'm putting that at me too.
It's true though. Oh my God. And I thought I was smart and mature.
Uh-huh. No, you might be for your age, but also that doesn't mean a lot in the grand scheme of things.
Oh. Wow. Whoa. Okay. Well, I'm going to grapple with this one where if that dude had additional, more nefarious purposes and less self-control, I could have been a case file.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Yep. So that just goes to show, there are nice people out there. There are good people out there, but there are also very, very bad people out there too. And something just as simple as what you just said could have gone so badly.
Oh my. And like, for context, so we're not shaming Lee. We're not shaming anyone who gets in these situations. I was raised to be incredibly cautious. Mm-hmm. My dad was a lawyer. I have known what rape and sexual assault is since before I was 10 years old because my parents, and we talk about this in the Kara Robinson episode, they shared a lot of what monsters are in the world at what they deemed was age-appropriate levels. Mm-hmm. And so I've known about all that stuff. And I still was in that. I walked into that. God damn, I was a deer just walking into the forest to be hunted. Oh my God.
But that just proves like how easily things like that can happen.
Okay, I'm terrified to have children.
Yeah.
I am terrified to. Oh no. Oh no. I am going to turn into my mother because I remember her telling me so many times where she's like, nope, you can be really, really smart, but I am your mother. And nope, you are not mature enough. You are not smart enough on this. Yep. And I remember being so mad about it at the time. And now, obviously, as I'm having this small crisis moment here. Yeah. Oh, God help me. I'm going to have a headstrong kid between me and my husband.
You will. You can ship them off to me.
Girl, we're going to have to shared parent because maybe they'll listen to you.
We're going to have to trade. We're just going to have kid swap weeks.
We'll have to. Oh, my God. Oh, this is going to, wow. This, ooh.
Yeah, so, yes, moral of the story, be very cautious. Take precautions. Let people know exactly where you're going to be, when you're going to be. Let people know names of who you're going to be with.
I turned off my phone before I went into the home because he told me to turn off my phone.
Connie. Don't get me wrong. I am so thankful that it didn't end up that way, but like,
and you know me. I am the most like paranoid, take every safety precaution.
I'm just in shock that even happened.
In shock. I don't know if I want to laugh or cry or a little bit of both.
You look like both right now.
Both. I'm sweating and I have chills at the same time.
I know you're getting a little flush over there.
Yeah, I'm just I shut off. I didn't even think two thoughts about I shut off my phone. Because I was thinking, well, at least I have my phone on for track. No, I shut off my phone.
Don't shut off your phone. Nowadays, we have do not disturb.
We had the silent option back then. I just didn't question it.
Question it. Also, don't do job interviews at someone's home. If they want some other place, non-office, go to a
public space, coffee shop.
Super easy peasy. You're in public view. People can see you. People can see them.
Yeah, coffee shop, not restaurant.
No, coffee shop
because you can get in and out quicker.
Yep. And it's pretty common nowadays to have meetings or interviews at coffee shops.
You can rent out conference rooms at coffee shops.
Yeah,
definitely do that. I get well.
Connie's gonna try to not have an aneurysm over there.
Connie, my eyes, in between my nightmare last night, I was telling Jess about my nightmare last night. That it involved a demon, scared the hell out of me. I woke up. I am not a religious person, but I remember the story of my sister's friend who had a possession experience and then was told by the priest at our college to say, God, I love God. Jesus is my savior. And that helped got rid of the demon. That's what I was saying this morning. That's the only thing that could calm me down. And now I'm just thinking in between that and this right now, I'm becoming a very big believer in God. And my guardian angel.
Mm-hmm.
I owe my guardian angel a lot.
They do a lot to keep us safe.
No. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. I put you through a lot. I shut off my phone.
You got someone up there really looking out for you, Connie.
They need to be on shifts. It's a 24-hour shift. I turned off my phone. I shut off my phone. I went to a house with a man twice my age and then some. Mm-hmm. Okay. So maybe the other lesson to take from this for your children is let them know that age does not equal authority, and authority does not equal absolute.
Yes.
Because the theme of me getting myself into perilous situations was, it's an adult. Adults are fine. Adults are mature.
Yep.
Well, this is not the direction I was expecting us to take on this one.
No. Well, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, so.
I didn't know. I had that repressed memory.
Yeah.
That's a 11, 12-year-old memory.
Crazy.
Oh my God, I can't even.
Well, on that note, make sure that you are following us on all of our social medias. Yeah. We are on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and Instagram, all at Chaos Chronicles Podcast, and that's Chronicles with an S. We're gonna go drink some more tea, maybe have some food, let Connie get through these feelings.
Yeah.
And
I knew this podcast was going to unearth, feelings, and I thought it was going to be the happy. We talk about life, lessons we want to learn.
Yeah, what happened to those episodes? Why don't you guys like those episodes?
Why don't you like those episodes? Instead, we're sitting here traumatized for you.
You're welcome.
Like the episode, please.
Yeah. Well, we will see you either on Saturday for a Twilight episode or next week for another, hopefully not as scarring of a story.
I don't know what else is locked up in my brain, so we'll find out.
We will find out. All right, bye.
Adios. How the fuck am I not dead? Girl, so many situations.